I know every year I come on here and you get to the start of the season and get to the picks for week one and I talk about how much of a crapshoot it is and how much we don't know. And the reality is, that's not just trying to like project blame away from getting a bunch of picks wrong. It's the reality of it. It's hard to gauge based off of the preseason when some of these teams barely play their starters, if they even play them at all in some cases. And then when it gets to the first week, you talk about live action for 60 minutes of game time. These teams could do any number of things, and we see it year after year that some teams come out of the gates looking like gangbusters and you find out they suck. Some teams take a little while to get into their rhythm and get their momentum. So, yeah, your guess is as good as mine a lot of times when it comes to week one games. And I look at how I did for week one, and it wasn't too bad. I'll take it for a week one. It was 9-7 picking winners straight up, 10-6 against the spread. Like the early slate of games, it was looking really abysmal for my picks. I said, oh, God, that's kind of embarrassing. But it got better in the afternoon, and then Sunday night and Monday night certainly had some notable picks go well for me in terms of week one. I think one of them's got to be, obviously, the pick of the Raiders to win straight up when they were +4 against the Ravens. It was just a sense or a vibe that I have. And sometimes those opening night, Monday night games can go kind of haywire. So that one certainly worked out quite well for me. Kansas City and Cleveland, I felt like that 5.5 point spread was too generous. So I thought KC would win, but I thought Cleveland was good enough to keep it close. And they were more than that. They just had Baker's boner laid after the defense had allowed Kansas City to get back into the game and take the lead. But yeah, when you look at the early slate of games, like I said, there were a lot of, like Tennessee, did you bother? Did you care? Jacksonville, same question. Atlanta, certainly same question. So I say all of that to say we get into week two here, and I'm not sure how I feel yet. It's only 1 week, so it's hard to get a real vibe or feel for the season, like what teams were legit based off of their week one performances, what performances in week one could be fool's gold one way or another. I started off well on Thursday night. I believed that the Giants were going to cover the spread and talked about that, but I thought Washington would win the game. It was a 3.5 point spread, so I thought New York could cover that. This would be one of those close, interesting games, and it ended up being. And Washington won, but New York did cover, so I'm off to a good start for the week. As I transition over to the early games on Sunday, you've got the Bengals traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Bears are getting 3 points here as favorites, and they don't deserve it because they're not really that much better in practicality based off of what we saw in week one than the Bengals. In fact, the Bengals certainly looked better, but the Bears also had a much better opponent they were facing in the Rams. The Bears are also 3-5 at home since 2020. I look at this game and I say, you know what? This is exactly the type of mediocre-ass game, mid-ass game that the Bears would win to try and justify their mid-ass mentality. So give me Chicago minus the 3. Houston travels to Cleveland to take on the Browns. There's no respect for the CLE crew. No respect. None. He's 5 games away from cementing his Coach of the Year status. He got win 1. Some of this might be the only win of the year, but he is 5 wins away. And I hope everybody joins with me. If David Culley with this Texans team wins 6 games, he is hands down, no doubt about it, the Coach of the Year, period. I don't care if somebody else goes undefeated. He's the Coach of the Year. Who would have done a better pure coaching job? Browns are getting 12.5 here. And that's a really weird thing because the Browns lost, granted to the 2-time defending AFC champions, but they still lost. And the Texans won convincingly in week 1, albeit against the Jags. 12.5 feels a little bit big, but maybe week 1 was a fluke. I'll go with Cleveland minus the 12.5. David Culley, prove me wrong, damn it. You've got the Rams traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. What's the truth here? Are the Rams really, really that good based off of their 20-point win in Sunday night against the Bears? Or do the Bears just suck that much? For the Colts, were they really that bad? Or is Seattle just better prepared and more ready in week 1? The Rams are 4-point favorites. I'm going to say this. Maybe Colts fans don't like me because I keep putting the Jeff jinx on them, but I'm going to pick the Colts to win plus the 4 here because the Rams didn't impress me that much on Sunday night. They really didn't. I think that was more of a reflection of just how bad the Bears are and particularly how poorly coached they are. Certainly concerns for the Colts in week 1 after their performance, but I think having this game at home, they'll have a chance to get out there. Like I talked about in the season preview with them, I certainly anticipated and envisioned they could get off to a slow start and then have to kind of rally and rebound later on in the year. but I'll take the Colts here because it doesn't make any sense. And sometimes the NFL just doesn't make any sense. You've got the Bills traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. I'm going to smash Buffalo minus the 3 all day. No disrespect to the Dolphins and Tua, but they barely beat the Patriots by a point in week 1. The Bills, yeah, they lost, but they lost to a playoff-worthy Steelers team and just had a bad day. So I like Buffalo to rebound in this spot. The Patriots travel to New York, or New Jersey, however the hell you want to look at it, to take on the Jets. I like the odds here of Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson getting their first wins with the Jets. I know the Patriots are 5.5-point favorites, but they're also coming off of a week 1 loss, very similar to the New York Jets, although different circumstances, different situations. It's 2 rookie quarterbacks going to face-to-face. I look forward to this matchup. I think this is an exciting matchup. See Mac Jones versus Zach Wilson, potentially a preview of a rivalry that could be there for the next 10 to 12, 15 years in the AFC East. But yeah, I'm going to go crazy here, another upset. Give me the Jets plus the 5.5. You've got San Francisco traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. San Fran's only a 3.5-point favorite. Maybe that's because people looked at week 1 and said, man, Jalen Hurts looked pretty good and that Eagles offense was okay and their defense was great. And then you realize, yeah, they were also taking on the Falcons, whose defense absolutely sucks. And an offense that doesn't have Julio Jones now. Give me San Francisco minus the 3.5. It feels like that spread is a little light because people are laying too much money on the Eagles based off of potentially misleading week 1 performance. You've got the Raiders traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. You know, I would have said, especially if the Raiders lost, that the Steelers were in significant trouble here. Home game against a bad team usually spells trouble for the Steelers. You got to give the Raiders their credit. They won this Monday night game. On the flip side, it's a short week now. You got to turn around early game. Yeah, it's early game. I'm sorry. Travel to Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh to win here, but I do like the Raiders potentially in a backdoor cover to cover the 5.5. The Saints travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. I like the Saints here minus the 3.5. I think their performance in week 1 has to be taken at least somewhat seriously. I mean, they defeated a team that went to the NFC Championship game the past couple of years by 35 points. Meanwhile, the Panthers struggled to hold off the Jets. That's got to account for something. And then Denver travels to Jacksonville to take on the Jags. I like Denver minus the 6 here. You're already getting some reports of some trouble with Urban Meyer in that Jacksonville locker room. Oh boy, buckle up, folks. Could be a long season there. The later Sunday afternoon games, you got Minnesota traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Good thing for Minnesota. Losing last week didn't hurt them a damn bit because, best of all for them, they lost to an AFC team, which matters the least in terms of the tiebreakers come end of the year when you think about playoffs, divisions, stuff like that. But they need to rebound here against Arizona. Meanwhile, Arizona's got to be riding pretty high. Pretty quality win on the road. They kicked the shit out of the Titans. Give me Arizona minus the 4.5. Atlanta traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucks. Bucks to win this, absolutely, but 12.5 points. Yeah, I understand Falcons looked really bad in week 1, but you know the Bucks also looked really bad defensively in week 1, so I do like Atlanta to cover the 12.5-point spread. You've got the Cowboys traveling to LA to take on the Chargers. I'll throw this out there, that the Cowboys may lose this game, but this could be viewed as another quality loss. And even if they start off the season 0-2, we shouldn't be dismissing them so soon because, yes, while their defense stinks, their offense is legit. Dak and that passing game is legit. Even with losing somebody like a DeMarcus Lawrence on defense or losing somebody like Cooper on offense, like they still got weapons there. This is still be a legit team. I wonder if those injuries will be a little too much on Sunday. I do like the Chargers minus the 3. But just because the Cowboys might start off 0-2, we certainly should not dismiss their chances. That's a team that, as you look at their kind of Swiss cheese soft schedule or butter soft schedule, like they're going to rack up some wins at some point in time. You've got the Titans traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. I like Seattle to win, but I do like Tennessee to cover the 5.5 spread. Sunday night, big marquee notable matchup. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs travel to Baltimore to take on Lamar Jackson and the beat-up Baltimore Ravens. Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites here, and you can certainly understand that. Recent history indicates that the Chiefs are going to win this and win this comfortably. Like Mahomes has owned the Ravens. More importantly, the Chiefs' defense has owned Lamar Jackson. You know, and you wonder at some point in time if like that's just a pattern that the Ravens are never going to be able to overcome, or if that is just something that is due to change. This is a really big spot for the Ravens. You do not want to go 0-2. You do not want to lose this game to the Chiefs because there is a certain mental thing here. That with some of the injuries you're already dealing with, You do not want to go 0-2 with some of the injuries and start to think really bad about yourself. Meanwhile, saying to yourself as well that even if you rebound later in the year and you win some of these games, get yourself into a playoff position, you feel like you can't beat the Chiefs. This is huge for them. For the Chiefs, it's so tough because you could play them so well for so long, like the Browns did, frankly, on Sunday, and then they just keep hitting you. They just keep coming, and if you have one boner like Baker had, it's all over. I'm not just trying to put that game on Baker, believe me. It's just fun to say Baker's boner, but, you know, that's what it means. Like, it's just that one mistake ruined their last chance, even though the defense didn't hold off the Chiefs when they needed to. I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to say Sunday night, I like the Ravens. There's no justifiable, logical, rational reason to pick them, and sometimes that's the best reason to pick them. So give me Baltimore to win plus the 3.5. Go big or go home, bitches. And then the Monday night game. Dan Campbell's coming for your kneecaps, Aaron Rodgers, on Monday night. That's a pretty bold spread. When the 49ers, for all intents and purposes, we view as having a decent defense. The Lions put up over 30 on them last week. Yes, a lot of that in garbage time, but they made that game really damn close. Meanwhile, the Packers gave up 38 points and only scored 3. And yet, somehow, some way, this feels like a lot of bias against the Lions because they're the Lions, and a lot of bias for Green Bay saying, oh man, the Packers are going to rebound in a big spot here in week 2 because of that week 1 performance. That could certainly happen, but damn, like, that feels awfully generous. 10.5? Based off of what we saw in week 1? Yikes. I don't even feel that confident in it. I'm still going to pick Green Bay minus 10.5. I want to be clear. But I totally expect to be wrong about this because there was no indication of anything that we saw late Sunday afternoon for the Packers against the Saints that said that this was a good team right now, or that this team would come out and be able to beat even the Lions by double digits. You know, and the way this could go, you know, the winner of this game will be either in first place in the division or potentially tied for first with somebody else. Big game. Imagine if Detroit were to win somehow. Oh my goodness, the whole NFL would be turned upside down. We'd have Dan Campbell fever, baby! Coming for your kneecaps! Yeah. But no, I think Packers will win, but 10.5 point spread, I don't feel so good about. But anyways, you can look at my picks in the description box below. Feel free to leave your picks in the comments. I'll be curious to see how you guys stack up and how you compare against me. We'll be doing this all year, so stick around and come back for more. Yeah!